Welcome to Align Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda and I'll be guiding our practice today. As we begin today, my question for you is this. How well are you preparing those coming behind you for the tasks that you are moving away from? I was reminded of the importance of this as I read through Chronicles. And David has been told that he cannot build the temple of God. Instead, that privilege is going to go to his son. David could have been very angry with God about this. He could have been very bitter about it. He could have just shrugged his shoulders and said, fine, and moved on. But instead, David stepped up. And he stepped up so that Solomon could succeed. Scripture tells us this. It says that David commanded to gather together the resident aliens who were in the land of Israel, and he set stone cutters to prepare dressed stones for the building of the house of God. He also provided great quantities of iron for nails for the doors of the gates and for clamps, as well as bronze in quantities beyond weighing, cedar timbers without number. He says to Solomon, with great pains I have provided for the house of the Lord 100,000 talents of gold, 1,000,000 talents of silver, and bronze and iron beyond weighing, for there is so much of it, timber and stone too, I have provided. And David also commanded all of the leaders of Israel to help Solomon, his son. And he set aside the tasking of all of the Levites and the roles that they would play when the temple was built. I don't know where you are right now. Maybe you're a stay-at-home parent who is getting ready to move into the workforce, or a working parent who is getting ready to stay home. Maybe you are a coach who is getting ready to hand off your team to another coach. Maybe you're like me, closer to retirement, getting ready to move into the next phase of where God is taking you and needing to equip those coming behind so that everything in what you are currently doing continues successfully. Wherever you are today, I invite you in this practice to think about the investments you're making in those who are following you. How are you equipping and preparing them for the job that God has for them? Come to a comfortable seated position, elevating your hips up in a blanket or a block and rocking a little bit side to side, front to back until you find your sitting bones. Go ahead and adjust your legs. Maybe they're crossed in front of you, drawn behind you. Maybe your knees are bent. Find your breath and just notice the way that the body feels today. I invite you to bring your hands palms up as they rest on your legs. Opening yourself up to all that God is calling you to do in the moment, rather than living into the future and those next steps. What is it right now that needs to be done to prepare the way for those that come after you? Breathing in and out through the nose, begin to breathe a little more deeply, a little more three-dimensionally. We're going to work our way into Bird of Paradise today, one step at a time, modifying as we go. And so I invite you to check in. Notice how open your chest feels. Notice how much release or tightness there is in the hamstrings and the inner thighs. What would it look like to completely open yourself up to everything that God has for you in this moment? Taking a deep breath in, I invite you to bring your arms up and overhead, palms together, and exhale, hands to heart. Interlacing the fingers, press palms towards me, find a cat pose. Inhaling, the arms rise, and exhaling, let them come down behind you, opening up into cow. Back and forth here for 2 more times through this sequence. Arms rise and fall with breath. Cat. And cow. With breath. One more time through, finding your pace. And whenever you get there, no hurry. Stay in cow pose. So heart is lifting towards the sky. Go ahead and externally rotate those shoulders a little bit more, drop them down. Maybe you can feel the shoulder blades scooping a little bit, releasing as they slide down the sides of the body and the back. Taking a deep breath in, bring arms all the way up together and exhaling, hands to heart. And for just a couple of breaths here, what are the processes or systems that need to be put in place before you take your next steps? Or who is it that you are investing in? What does that look like? Gently bring the hands down. Come off any props that you're up on and bring those props towards the front of the mat. Extend your right leg out to the side and go ahead and turn the body a little bit towards that leg. And for a moment, just kind of bounce the knee and windshield wiper the hip and notice, is that hamstring tight? And if it's really tight, maybe you elevate it up on a block. From here, exhaling, draw your body forward, inhaling, come back. And how flexible is that hamstring today? Noticing also any resistance in the back. Find your own range of motion and settle into your stretch. Maybe shake the head out, no and yes. Allowing the back of the head to reach towards the mat. Maybe draw the shoulders a little bit wide and down. Take the outside hand to the center of the thigh and taking 2 breaths, press the thigh down into the mat. On that next breath in, press up. And then exhale into this fold again. Just noticing where you go, and is there a difference in the way that the leg or the back feels now? Gently pressing into the hands, rise up. Bring the body to center. Reach your back hand, your right hand, across that left knee and your left hand out to the side. And then bring that back arm down towards your forearm or wherever it goes for you. And begin to walk this other arm towards your head and maybe overhead. Or maybe you're just reaching onto the floor and stretching with your fingers. So wherever you are now, this other hip is going to be lifted off the mat. And just notice that the position of the shoulder, the position of the hand determines the stretch. Find your stretch and stay here for 2 breaths. Taking a deep breath in, go ahead and bring that arm up and over. Come back to sitting and bring the other leg out to the side. So same sequence here. Bounce the knee a little bit, windshield wiper the hips. Notice as you begin how that leg feels. Make any adjustments necessary with props. Exhale forward, inhale back, checking in further. Where do you feel the most sensation on this side? Connect with your breath and lead with your breath. And as you're ready, come forward, settle here. Shake your head out, no and yes. And find your breath here. Can you use the breath to find release? As you're ready, take that outside hand to the inside. Take the outside hand to the center of the inner thigh. Press that thigh down to the mat for 2 breaths. And gently press into the leg as you rise up. Exhale, forward fold. Where do you go? Gently press into your hands and come back up. Adjust the body. Go ahead and bring this opposite arm across this bent knee. So my left arm is reaching forward. My right arm is going to reach out to the side. And drop onto that forearm so that back hip is going to lift a little. And then just reach the arm and bring it over towards that other hand, maybe over the head. And again, just noticing on this side, what stretch do you want? This can be a stretch, in the kind of the middle of the back. It can be a stretch underneath the arm. It can be a stretch all the way down to the hip. Where is your release right now? As you're ready, inhale, push through that bottom arm, come all the way up, and bring both legs out to the side. Maybe lift the hips up and settle down again, finding the sitting bones again. Again, windshield wiper the feet, bounce the knees. Hands directly in front of you. Go ahead and take a nice deep breath in, lengthen through the spine, and then fold forward from the hips. So rather than rounding forward, we're just leaning forward. Begin to engage the muscles of the legs, pressing the heels away from you, drawing the hips, the thighs in towards that hip crease. Then consider possibly turning those toes slightly to the outside, finding a little bit of a stretch in the inner thigh and groin. Stay here for 2 more breaths. Gently press into your hands and rise up. I invite you to meet me in table. So wrists will be directly underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. Smack through the tops of the feet. Pressing into the tops of the feet, engage through the abdominals. Begin to find your cat stretch as the back rises to the sky. And cow as the chest moves through the arms and up. And 2 more times here, cat to cow. Settle into cow pose. Begin to open up across the chest again, maybe externally rotating those shoulders. Feeling the shoulder blades glide down towards the hips. So bird of paradise requires that flexibility in the hamstrings. It's also a binding pose, so it requires an openness across the chest. So just checking in and noticing, how tight are you today from shoulder to shoulder. Come back into neutral position of the spine, come back into table. And then bring the big toes together, the knees out to the side, the hands forward. Begin to drop the forearms down towards the mat, the head towards the mat. Again, finding stretch in the inner thighs and groin. Take 3 breaths here, noticing the swoop of the back as the hips lift slightly towards the where the ceiling meets the wall behind you. And then pressing into your hands, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, your knees back underneath your hips, curling your toes under, draw knees into rib cage. Let the back of the head come down, shake your head out no and yes. And begin to pedal through your feet, maybe moving your hips side to side, finding the stretch that's right for you, noticing where you're tight and tense. And then inhaling, let the heels rise, and exhaling, draw the heels towards the mat. And they might not get there, and that's okay. What is your downward facing dog telling you as you begin today? And that next inhale, raise the right leg to the sky. Bring the left heel up as well. So you're going to press down through the ball of the foot in the left. And then drawing the gaze forward, can you float that right leg, that leg that's pointing to the ceiling, in between the hands? Let the back knee tap down and up, beginning to open through the psoas muscle of the hip. Let that back knee come down to the mat. Take a nice deep breath in, arms come up, hands to heart. Just lean a little bit forward, finding the stretch in the psoas. Hands to the small of the back, begin to find your back bend. And then exhaling, bring hands to either side of the foot, curl the toes under in the back, and raise that back leg to the sky. And then from here, maybe using blocks at the front, start to straighten and bend that front leg. So that back heel is pressing towards that wall behind you. The thigh is reaching up, reaching up, reaching up. And that front leg is bending within your range of motion, tension but never struggle. As you're ready, find your hamstring stretch. Again, letting the head completely release. Go heavy towards the mat. Just give in to gravity. And then bend the front knee over the ankle, moving props off to the side, front foot to the back, meet me in a strong plank. And from plank, come down to the mat, maybe bending the knees, maybe straight leg. Find your Sphinx pose. Your forearms are a little bit wide, fingers spread wide. Nice deep breath in as the collarbone rises and the heart opens. Exhaling, nose towards the mat. You come in and out of this a couple of times. And then settle into Sphinx pose. Begin to find the work in this pose, feeling the work across the middle of the back. Again, maybe those shoulders can externally rotate just a little bit and draw down. How open are you to doing hard work when you might not be the one that sees the results? Exhaling, come down to the mat, hands to rib cage. Come through table, meeting me in downward facing dog. And just check in and notice the right side of the body compared to the left, and maybe you notice a little bit of a difference. And on the next inhale, the left leg rises high. And that right heel comes up as well. It's just going to give you a little more space for that foot to come through. Gaze comes forward. Foot floats through the hands, and that back knee taps down and up. As you're ready, that back knee comes down to the mat, top of the foot to the mat. Again, just beginning to find this stretch in the psoas in the front of the hip. Take a deep breath in as you rise, hands to heart. And then hands to the small of the back. Again, just supporting yourself as you press into that sacrum bone. It's early in your practice today, just noticing, how open are you across the chest. The next inhale, go ahead and bring those arms up, and then to either side of the foot, raise that back thigh to the sky as the toes curl under, and maybe using props, begin to bend and straighten the front leg. This is your second hamstring stretch. You did the other one seated with that leg extended in front of you. Is there a difference in the way that it feels when your body is oriented in this direction? Find the stretch here, again allowing the upper body to get really heavy. Now gravity is pulling that head down towards the mat. Maybe you can engage through the abdominals a little more. Does that shift the stretch? Maybe you can draw the inner thighs in a little bit towards each other. Just imagine they're not going to actually physically move, but imagine them drawing in. And as you're ready, that front knee bends over the ankle and front foot floats to the back, meeting knee in plank. And come down to the mat, however you choose to do that, and find your back bend. And whatever back bend you choose, stay there for a breath. Again, how open can you make the front of the body? Curling the toes under, meet knee in downward facing dog. In the next inhale, the right leg rises high. Maybe the left heel rises as well. This time, the foot is going to float to the outside of the hand. So bring that right foot to the outside of the right hand, that back knee down, top of the foot to the mat. So find your lizard pose. Maybe this is it for you. Maybe you can scoop that back hip a little bit forward and up. If you want a little more in the inner thigh, you can roll this front foot out. If you want a quadricep stretch, that back heel rises. If you want to open up across the chest, press into that left hand, raise that right arm all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, bring it back, foot to hand, hand to foot. Open up here. Find your breath. Exhaling, release. Go ahead and toe heel that foot back to center. Raise the back leg up, back knee up. Bring the front foot to the back, meet knee in plank. And from plank, find your way to the mat, find your back bend, meet knee in downward facing dog. Again, just settling in, checking in, noticing any response, body, mind, and soul, to your practice. And on the next inhale, the left leg rises high. And the right heel rises. And the gaze comes forward and the foot's going to come to the outside of the hand. Back knee drops. So stay here for a breath, check in, notice how it feels. Maybe this is where you stay. Maybe you engage this right hip a little more. Roll to the outside of that left foot. Maybe the back heel rises so you can find your quadricep stretch. Maybe you press into the right hand and that left arm reaches, and comes back to the foot. Hand to foot, foot to hand, open up across the chest. Find breath. And unwind. Go ahead and toe heel that front foot to the center, curl the toes under in that back leg, float the front foot to the back, meet knee in plank. And again, from plank, however you choose to do it, whatever your flow is, find your back bend. And this time, come child to table twice. lengthening through the spine, rising into table, neutral position of the spine. One more time. Settling here, go ahead and turn your right fingertips in. Sweep the left arm up, so you're coming from table in to thread the needle. Go ahead and thread the needle, but come in and out of it a couple of times so that you can check in. What's going on in the back, in the shoulder, in the neck. Make any adjustments that you need to make. And as you're ready, let the shoulder and the head rest on the mat. So settle here for a moment and just really reach these fingertips forward as the shoulder gets heavy and comes down. Stacking shoulders, go ahead and raise that right arm up. And then maybe that hand comes to the small of the back. Or maybe it even goes all the way around into the bind. Take one more breath here. On the next inhale, the arm rises, exhaling, hand underneath the shoulder, unwind, child to table twice. Lengthening through the spine with that exhale. Rising into table with the inhale. Turn the left fingertips in, sweep the right arm up, and exhale as you thread the needle. And two more times here, moving with breath, checking in on this side. What do you notice? And as you're ready, let the shoulder and the head settle. Engage through the abdominals. Let the fingers reach and reach. And then let that top arm reach to the sky. Just seeking God's wisdom and God's guidance into your next steps. And maybe that hand comes down to the small of your back and offers a little bit of support. Maybe it wraps all the way around into the hip crease and you find a bind. Wherever you are, stay here for two more breaths. On the next inhale, let that arm rise. Exhale, hand comes underneath the shoulder. Meet me in table, child to table twice, lengthening through the spine with that exhale. As you're ready, curl the toes under, meet me in downward facing dog, and check in again. Taking a deep breath in, raise that right leg up to the sky, draw the gaze forward and bring the foot all the way through. The hands come all the way up into a lunge. Go ahead and bend that right elbow, left elbow reaching to the sky. That right arm reaching right towards the insertion point of the elbow. So can you keep the elbow and the arm fairly close to your head, reaching straight up, and simultaneously keep that shoulder kind of relaxed so you're not shrugging your shoulder to your ears. And maybe you bind as that arm comes all the way around and catches, and both fingers, the fingers of both hands can connect. But maybe not, and that's okay. As you're ready, release. Bring hands to heart. Step up into mountain pose. And just stay here in mountain for 3 breaths and check in. Deep breath in, arms rise, exhaling, forward fold. And hands to shins, come up halfway and exhale down, and one leg back and then the other, and meet me in plank, and come down towards the mat, rise into your back bend, and meet me in downward facing dog. And that next inhale, the left leg rises high. Maybe that right heel rises as well, and gaze forward, and the foot comes all the way through the hands, rising into your lunge. And just finding this tricep stretch. Go ahead and draw that right elbow up to the sky. Notice the position of the body, shoulders over hips. Maybe you can draw the belly in and up a little bit. Draw the rib cage down and back a little bit. Just cinching in the core muscles. Maybe this left hand comes out and down, thumb down, and reaches for the fingers. One more breath here. And release the arms and hands to heart. Bring that back foot up to meet the front. Feet are hip width apart. Meet me in mountain for 2 breaths. Stay here in mountain, and for our final preparation as we get ready for bird of paradise, we're going to work on balance. So press into that right foot and float that left. Bring the arms out to the side, and as you press down into that foot, can you lift the hip up? The body rises up and out of the hips, and then float this left knee up. And gently bring the knee to the side and hold on to that leg, and maybe bring the knee up towards the armpit, up towards the shoulder. And stay here and just notice, is there a difference if you flex the foot or point the foot? Which is better for you? Exhale, bring the knee to center and come down. Other side, pressing into the left foot. Arms out to the side, engage the abdominals, find a focal point in front of you, raise that right leg up, knee up. Bring the knee to the side. Maybe the arm comes under that knee as you draw that knee up towards the shoulder. Again, everything we're doing today, intentionally guiding us towards this final pose. One more breath here. And just bring that leg to center and down. And shake it all out. Interlace the fingers, bring the arms up and overhead. Bring the hands behind your head. Press the back of the head into the hands into the back of the head. Pressing down with the feet, twist to the right. Raise that right elbow up. So we're looking for a stretch across the chest and across the arm. And then bring that other arm, palm down, thumb down, all the way around. Maybe catching at the hips, creating a little more stretch here and a bind. Exhale and release. Interlace the fingers awkwardly. One way probably feels better than the other. Plant your feet again, weight is even, the base of the big toe, little toe, and heel. Press the arms forward, up, and behind the skull. And as the feet press down, as the body lifts up, find your twist to the left. Elbow rises high. And that other arm, maybe, that right arm comes down and around and finds the bind. As you're ready, release and come down. So shake everything out. One more balance pose to prepare us here. Feet are hip width apart. Bring those arms out. I like to start this way because I like to give us as much chance as possible of staying balanced. So you're going to really feel those feet connect, the body lifting out, the abdominals cinching in and up. Pressing into that right foot, that left leg will rise. Knee comes out, we did this before. This time you're going to extend the leg. So for you, maybe that's holding on underneath and extending. Or maybe, I have very long arms, short legs, it's a little easier for me. You can hold on to the foot and extend. And engage the abdominals and relax the shoulders and find the pose. And then exhaling, just bend that knee, bring it back to center and come down, shake everything out. Same thing, other side, here we go. Pressing into that left foot. Find the balance here first. Focal point in front of you, shoulders relaxed, arms reaching, abs in. Knee rises and comes to the side. Find your rendition of this pose. Yoga is called practice for a reason. Wobbles are okay. Exhale and release. Shake everything out. Nice deep breath in, arms rise, hands to heart. Stay here for 2 breaths in mountain. Notice the quality of your breath. And maybe you can slow it down and deepen it. One more inhale. And forward fold. So go ahead and bend the knees a little bit, shake your head out, no and yes. First forward fold of the day, how does it feel? Maybe you can find a little bit more of a hamstring stretch as the hips lift, but don't sacrifice the release of the back. One more breath here. Hands to shins, rise up halfway, exhaling, come down, one leg back and then the other. Meet me in plank. From plank, come down to the mat and find your back bend. And exhale your way back to downward facing dog. Take one breath here, checking in. So finding our bird of paradise pose. On the next inhale, right leg rises, left heel rises. Gaze forward, bring the foot all the way through the hands, rise up into your lunge, and pivot that back foot. Back, the edge of the foot is parallel to the back edge of the mat. Find warrior 2. Come in and out of warrior 2 a few times, just kind of noticing the strength of the legs today, the flexibility of the inner thigh and groin. Make smart choices as you decide what this pose is going to look like for you. I invite you to come over into a side angle bend. Reach as long as you can overhead and then bring the hands up to the ceiling. And bring that right hand, that top hand, behind the back. So support the body here. Go ahead and drop this front arm if that works for you, and maybe you'll have a block and that will help you, or maybe you're just reaching towards the mat. And then drop the shoulder a little bit more, and that right arm is going to bend around the thigh and reach towards the hip crease, and that top arm is going to come back and meet it. And then as the shin comes a little towards the front of the mat, the hips tuck under and towards the front of the mat or the wide edge of the mat, stack the shoulders. Maybe this is where you stop. Or maybe this back foot now creeps up a little bit, until it's about halfway up the mat. And you begin to place the weight on the back foot and engage through the abdominals and push through that foot as you rise up. And maybe this is your bird of paradise. And maybe you can extend that leg. So what does the pose look like for you? And release and shake it out. Find your mountain pose, deep breath in, arms rise, exhaling, hands to heart. One breath here. How does the body feel? Exhaling, forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhale down, one leg back and then the other. Meet me in plank. From plank, come down to the mat. Find your back bend. Open up across the chest. Curling the toes under. Meet me in downward dog. Stay here for 2 breaths and see if you can find rest even just in the 2 breaths. On that next inhale, left leg rises high. Go ahead and lift that right heel as well. Gaze forward, bring the foot all the way through the hands, rise into your lunge. Pivot that back foot and find warrior 2. So the front foot, toes pointing towards the front edge of the mat. A little extra weight on the outside edge of that back foot. Come into your side angle bend, reach, reach, reach. Maybe lunge a little more deeply. Bring that top arm up and bring it to the small of the back. So again, you're just finding support here as you press into that sacrum bone. Maybe this is enough for you. Next step, that top arm or bottom arm comes down, faces behind you. You're actually going to dip the shoulder a little bit so that you can just bend that elbow and bring it up to your glutes or to your hip crease. And maybe you find the bind here. You can begin to bring this front shin a little bit towards the front of the mat. Draw the hips a little forward towards the wide edge of the mat. And then maybe this back foot just kind of creeps up, drag it up, hop it up, whatever works for you. And begin to shift the weight to this back foot. And as you're ready, rise up. Let's see if I get it. Maybe this is your bird of paradise. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe you extend the leg. So what works for you? One more breath. Exhale. Gently release. Shake it all out. Deep breath in, arms rise. Exhale, hands to heart. Can you find your breath again? Check in body, mind, and soul. What do you notice? Exhale into your forward fold. Invite you to bend the knees a little bit. Bring the forearms behind the calves. Reach the hands towards your heels. Gently begin to press the calves back as you bring the arms forward. Create some traction here. And can you find a stretch across your upper back? Maybe the head can get a little heavier, back of the head reaching towards the mat. And hands to shins, rise up halfway, and exhaling, come down, and one leg back and then the other, and meet me in plank. And from plank, come down to the knees, and child to table twice. Are you leading with your breath? As you're ready, exhale and come back. Find your child's pose. And today I invite you to bring your hands behind you. And rest your head on a blanket, a block, or the mat. And make a fist with your hands. You're going to wrap your fingers around your thumb and draw knuckles to the sky. Take a nice deep breath in. And exhale, relax the hand, back of the hand to the mat. Do that once more. Settle here. What processes, or provisions do you need to make or put into place so that you leave well, so that you set up the next person for success? Or maybe for you, who is it that you are investing in to move forward after you have moved on? As you're ready, gently bring the hands forward, press into the mat, slowly come up to sitting. Bring the feet wide in the mat, and gently dip them side to side, massaging out the glutes, releasing any tension in the lower back or hips. And then bring the feet forward and come down onto your back, knees bent. Drawing the knees in, rock side to side. Massaging out the muscles on either side of the spine. Gently, hands to knees. Draw the knees towards the chest and away from the chest. Feet are off the floor. And when you find a neutral position of the spine, go ahead and bring those feet to the mat. Knees bent, take a breath here. And then extend the legs long. Again, windshield wiper the feet, bounce the knees. Make any adjustments in the hips that you want to make. I invite you to bring your arms out to the side. Go ahead and bring them up towards the ceiling and cross one arm in front of the other. Bring the arms a little bit down and close to the rib cage, and then let the hands come down towards the mat. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't. Maybe they can even walk out a little wider. Take a breath here. And the next breath, give yourself a hug, wrapping those hands around the ribs and the back if you can. And then remembering which arm is in front, uncross the arms, bring them out to the side. Deep breath in, arms rise, cross the other one in front. Again, bring those elbows down just a little bit towards the chest. And then start walking those hands wide. If, again, my arms are really long here. If you have really short arms, this might never happen for you. Just find the stretch across the upper back. And then give yourself a hug. Reach the arms up to the sky. Take a nice deep breath in. Let the shoulders rise and exhale as those shoulder blades drop to the mat. Do that one more time. Let the hands come all the way down towards the mat. Rolling the head side to side from the top of one ear up and over to the top of the other. And then just bring the head to center and find Shavasana. As you settle into Shavasana today, invite the Holy Spirit to guide your thoughts. Give you inspiration and encouragement. What is your legacy? David never built the temple, but he enabled Solomon to build the temple. And that temple was filled with the glory of God. I invite you to stay here longer if you can. If you need to move on, gently begin to bring movement back. Wiggling fingers and toes, rotating wrists and ankles, maybe turning the head side to side. And the next inhale, bring arms up and over and reach behind you. And on that next exhale, draw your knees in. And find your way over onto your side, supporting your head with an arm with a block. And find breath. Gently pressing into your hands, rise up to a sitting position. Find your sitting bones again. Bring your legs comfortably in front of you. And check in one final time, body, mind, and soul. Remembering how you felt when you came to the mat. Noticing what has changed. Noticing also what has stayed the same. Accept it all as it is. Taking a deep breath in, arms rise up and overhead, palms together, and exhaling, bring hands to heart, joining me in prayer. Holy God, you alone know the future. You alone know how you have created each of us uniquely, how we can best serve you to bring your kingdom to earth. Help us to be patient, to persevere, to do the hard work of preparing others for the work that you have for them, so that we can move forward in freedom and boldness and confidence. It is in the name of Jesus the Christ that we pray. Amen. Thank you for practicing with me today.